How did the invasion change Czechoslovakia? If you're curious about how the Soviet invasion of 1968 impacted Czechoslovakia, you're about to uncover some significant changes that shaped the country's future. To start, the invasion marked the end of a period known as the Prague Spring, which began in January 1968. During this time, Alexander Dubcek, the new first secretary of the Communist Party, introduced reforms aimed at granting more rights to citizens, including greater freedom of speech, media, and travel. These reforms were part of a broader effort to decentralize the economy and democratize the country. However, these changes were seen as a threat by the Soviet Union, which feared losing control over its Eastern European satellite states. On August 20, 1968, Soviet-led forces, along with troops from other Warsaw Pact countries, invaded Czechoslovakia. This invasion was a drastic move to halt the reforms and restore a more rigid communist control. The immediate aftermath of the invasion was chaotic. Key leaders, including Dubcek and Chernik, were taken to Moscow. Despite this, the Czechoslovak people showed remarkable resilience through acts of passive resistance. For example, they removed road signs to confuse the invading troops and continued with their daily lives as much as possible. The invasion led to a period known as Normalization, where new leaders, backed by the Soviets, attempted to reverse the reforms. The 14th Communist Party Congress, which had elected a pro-Dubček Central Committee, was declared invalid, and hardliners took over key positions. This meant tighter controls over political and cultural activities, effectively ending the liberalization movement. One of the few lasting changes from the Prague Spring was the division of Czechoslovakia into two autonomous units, the Czech Socialist Republic and the Slovak Socialist Republic. Each unit had its own national parliament and government, a concession made to the hardliners. The invasion also had a profound impact on the population. Many Czechs and Slovaks were disillusioned with the sudden end to their hopes for greater freedom. This disillusionment was highlighted by tragic events, such as the self-immolation of Jan Polak, a student who protested the invasion by setting himself on fire in January 1969. In terms of international relations, the invasion intensified Cold War tensions. It solidified the Brezhnev Doctrine, which asserted the Soviet Union's right to intervene in any socialist country to protect the communist order. This doctrine was used to justify future Soviet interventions in Eastern Europe, further straining relations with the West. The invasion also had a chilling effect on reform movements in other Eastern European countries. It sent a clear message that any attempts to break away from Soviet influence would be met with force, effectively stifling any hopes of liberalization or democratization for the next 2 decades. In summary, the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968 led to the end of the Prague Spring reforms, the restoration of strict communist control, and significant changes in the country's political and social landscape. It also had far-reaching implications for the Cold War, solidifying Soviet dominance over Eastern Europe and suppressing any further attempts at reform.